Yali Madet everyone, my name is Parviz Laka and I'll be providing you with this week's Jamaati Institutional Update. And we're back! It has been a while since we had our last Saturday evening Jamaati programme, but we're back with new messages from our leadership over the coming weeks, and there will also be some new ITREB talks, and we'll be filling you in on the exciting events of each week. It is truly a pleasure to be talking to so many of you this evening on the return of the Jamaati Institutional Updates. I feel already somewhat reconnected with the Jamaat after a summer break from these Saturday updates. However, that break did not mean in any way that the institution slowed down. Nope. They were as busy as ever, and over the last few months, we have seen an array of institutional events. Talks, webinars, podcasts, exercise classes, as well as health, education and economic advice, to name just a few. And there's been great interest from across the Jamaat, which really helped us all feel connected during this time. These events have been taking place across all of our jurisdictions, and in the month of October, AKYSB of the Sweden and German councils hosted 2 virtual youth camps. Who'd have ever thought? They were called EYC and Camp Mosaic. And both of these camps provided the youth with fun-filled activities, mindfulness sessions, and networking opportunities. It was brilliant. So you can continue to stay up to date on all the institutional activity by reading the El Saha, which is now sent once a week on a Friday, and now everyone's favourite weekly read, of course. Or you can follow the Ismaili UK on Instagram and Facebook, or you can visit the Ismaili website or the II UK app. So, whilst it feels like uncertain and challenging times ahead, once again, as you can see, our Jamaati institutions have been doing some incredible work. And digital communication has essentially allowed us to stay and remain connected as #OneJamaat. So let's take a look at what there is to offer for the Jamaat in the week ahead. And let's go through it day by day. Tomorrow, which is Sunday, our regular and popular Golden Club session will take place at 12:30 p.m. The talks will be delivered by Alvayez Hussein Jassani, where he will discuss the last part of Ginan's religious literature of South Asian Ismailis. It sounds fantastic. So from the intellectual to the mindful, you can then join us on Monday for our next Mindful Monday session, which will take place at 8:30 p.m. And it's just a chance to get away from your busy schedules and take time to notice what's going on around you and just centre and reflect. And then on Tuesday, Parviz, not me, continues to keep us moving and gaining strength with her chair and standing exercises, which then takes us into Wednesday, the middle of the week. So join us then for what will be an exciting Stories on the Rooftop session. This one's pretty cool. Dr. Farah Alibai has been a systems engineer at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory for the past 6 years. She's a flight system engineer on the Mars 2020 team, and the rover mission, which is scheduled to land on the Red Planet, will take place in February 2021. So it's really not that far away. This is a really exciting talk, so don't miss that one. And that takes us into Thursday, where we have Social Circle at 11 a.m. and then the popular Talking Hands course on the British Sign Language taught by Farah and Zara also continues. And that brings us to next Saturday, when our next Sing-Along Saturday will be released on social media, which showcases musical talent from across our jurisdiction. And that will be followed by our next Jamaati evening programme at 7 p.m, right here. So look forward to seeing you then. Details of all of these events can be found, as has become customary, in Al Saha on social media pages or on the.ismaili.com/UK. Also, to update you, The latest partnership in our Ismaili Civic programme resulted in a 3.5-tonne food donation made by Spectrum Consortium, partnering with their supplier Bidfood. A donation of 8,500 meals was given to a food charity FareShare in order to support disadvantaged people at risk of hunger across the UK. It's truly a phenomenal project. So well done to the Ismaili Civic programme. And this evening we have a great programme for you all. The President of the UK National Council will shortly deliver a message, which will then be followed by an inspiring ITREB talk and a musical concert. So sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. My dear sisters and brothers, Ya Ali Madad. The opportunity to reconnect with you this evening gives me immense joy. Although the current situation is not something we could have wished for, let us remind ourselves that we are constantly in our beloved Hazrat Imam's thoughts and prayers. I quote Maulana Hazrat Imam's April message to the global Jamaat. Please convey my best paternal, maternal, loving blessings to my worldwide Jamaat and tell them that I think of them every minute of the day, each day, and I pray for Mushkil Asan, unquote. Also, I know of the strength and compassion each one of us has shown since the start of this pandemic. It has clearly indicated humankind's ability to care, to persevere, and find ways to cope, no matter how tough the path. And may I say, without any doubt, that we are all traveling a very bumpy path. However, our Imam's prayers and the power of our individual and collective efforts is very special, and it will sustain us as we travel through life. And so I want to acknowledge and thank you for everything you do for yourself and others, and for your role in nurturing our community. I also want to thank the numerous volunteers who are the backbone and bloodline of our Jamaat, as are our institutions, our Mukhi Kamariya and Mukhiani Kamariyani Saibans, as well as other office bearers. Importantly also, let us take today's opportunity to offer our prayers for the souls of the deceased. May their families and loved ones have strength to endure their loss. And I also wish a speedy recovery to those who are affected by the virus. Tonight, although I will reflect on the current context, my main message is of a hopeful horizon, where the sun shines to light our paths. So please stay with me, as this time my message is a little bit longer. Firstly, where are we at? I know that when we started these addresses in March, we had all hoped that by now, in October, we would be meeting physically, we would be attending Jamaat Khanas, and we would be living a somewhat normal life. But that is not the case. And so, as we face our current situation, I would like to begin by reflecting on Maulana Hazrat Imam's global message of April this year, where he said, and I quote, "The COVID-19 virus is highly contagious, and every day we are witnessing the damage it is inflicting on human lives and societies. In facing this threat, it is very important that all members of my Jamaat should take personal responsibility for exercising all possible steps to protect their own good health, safety, and well-being, and that of their family." Unquote. Although we came out of lockdown and experienced some return to a new normality, now, unfortunately, we are seeing tighter measures being enforced because this highly contagious virus is still inflicting damage on human lives and our societies. Sadly, to date, the official global statistics suggest that over 40 million people have been infected with COVID, with 1.1 million deaths. Yet experts believe that in fact the numbers are more like 200 million people infected and 2 million deaths. That doesn't take into account the many people who have died as a consequence of the disruption that the virus has had on health systems around the world. So what does this all mean? It means that over the coming months, it remains as vital as ever that we all take personal responsibility to protect ourselves, our loved ones, and the communities in which we live. Government guidance can be fraught with uncertainty and can lead to misinterpretations. Indeed, politicians make very tough decisions as they try to balance the safety of the country with other factors like the economy, employment, and education. For example, when the decisions to lift lockdown were made, schools reopened, and schemes like Eat Out to Help Out were introduced. These were all done with the positive intention of positively impacting education and the economy, hoping that our initial efforts to slow down the virus were enough. Unfortunately, from the beginning of September, the virus has started spreading and spreading very fast. Currently, the doubling time in the UK is approximated at 5 days. This means that if there were 10,000 cases today, then by next Thursday, there will be 20,000 cases. In about 4 to 6 weeks thereafter, the number of hospitalizations will increase. Approximately 2 weeks after that, the number of deaths will rise. Now, what this suggests is that we may see large numbers of people in hospital and, tragically, large number of deaths. At present, it appears unlikely that our governments will impose full country lockdowns again, because the economic and social cost of such a decision would be too great. Please consider that following government guidance is simply not enough to ensure our safety and well-being and that of our loved ones, friends, and communities. We need to think independently and make decisions with extra care and go over and beyond government guidelines. I humbly request you to please be cautious. If you are vulnerable, if you live with someone who is vulnerable, please take extra care. Remember that we have been through this before when this pandemic took force earlier this year. And we know that we came through it. So today, I urge you to enact the same faith, strength, and resilience, and know that together we will again come out the other side. Our Imam aspires for us to be exemplary citizens. That means putting extra effort and attention in our everyday decisions and behaviors. And in today's context, it means that for the short term, make sacrifices for our safety, knowing that the tough decisions we make today will have positive impact in the medium to long term. One such tough decision we have had to make with a very heavy heart and with much disappointment was to put on hold the reopening of the majority of our Jamaat Khanas. Our Mukhi Kamariya Sahibans, the Jamaat Khana Reopening Task Force, and numerous volunteers have done outstanding work in preparing for these reopenings. Although everything was in place to reopen our Jamaat Khanas, and we were all so excited to do so, unfortunately, given the risks posed by this virus, we have decided to hold off on our reopening plans. We ask for your patience and understanding as we continue to hold as the most important thing the health and safety of you, our Jamaat, our volunteers, and our Mukhi Kamariya and Mukhyani Kamariyani Sahibans. I know our Jamaat Khanas play a very, very important role in our lives. And I do understand how the absence of Jamaat Khana is difficult for all of us. And I am extremely grateful for your understanding. I want you to know I feel our pain. Yet, even though we cannot pray together, I would like to point you to a quote from the chairman of the Leaders International Forum, Malik Talib's Global Navroz message, where he said, and I quote, "Ours is an esoteric faith. Our Imam has time and time again reminded us of the importance of spiritual contemplation, reflection, personal search, and prayer. In these moments, we will find peace and solace to overcome our current challenges. We would be well advised to recall Maulana Hazar Imam's farmans regarding engaging in personal prayer when we are unable to attend Jamaat Khana. It is my conviction that adhering to this guidance will bring us comfort in these challenging times," unquote. Chairman Talib went on to say, and I quote, "The temporary closure of our Jamaat Khanas has resulted in the appearance of electronic and digital channels offering a virtual Jamaat Khana. This is clearly inappropriate, as a Jamaat Khana may only be established and function under the Imam's authority through his institutions and his appointed Mukhi Kamariyas," unquote. I would humbly ask the Jamaat to please carefully reflect on Chairman Talib's message. At an institutional level, we recognize that all the work we did in the immediate response to this pandemic in March needs now to be re-energized. So we are re-engaging the Coronavirus Crisis Unit, the Coronavirus Support Team. And as before, you can reach the Coronavirus Support Team at any time. Our telephone link volunteers will commence reconnecting with our elderly and vulnerable members and support with shopping, food, and medical provisions. Mukhi Kamriya and Mukhiani Kamriyani Saibans, as well as other office bearers, will make contact with each member of their Jamaat to check in and give du'as, which I know was really appreciated earlier this year. At an institutional level, we are working very hard. We are receiving an increased number of cases of economic, mental health, and education-related matters from members of the Jamaat. We are also carefully tracking our COVID cases within our Jamaat and reporting these up to the Global Steering Committee. Please know we are here for every member of the Jamaat, so please reach out if there is anything that we can do for you. The situation will remain challenging and uncertain for at least the next 4 to 5 months, as different areas within our jurisdiction move in and out of different lockdown levels. We ask all members of our Jamaat to support one another as you have done so well throughout this crisis. The power of care and kindness knows no bounds. It is what sustains all of us. And so, I thank you most sincerely for being there for each other. Now, I realize that all of this sounds rather bleak. However, I want you to know that it is not all bad news. I remind you once again of Maulana Hazar Imam's global message in April, where he said, and I quote, "It is my hope and prayer that in due course, work on producing vaccines and other forms of medicine will yield positive results, and that we will see a gradual return to normal life in all societies," unquote. So I'm delighted to share that the steps taken by the medical profession globally have been phenomenal. In a short period of time, enormous progress has been made to combat this virus. Firstly, doctors and nurses have become much better at treating people with the virus. Mortality has dropped by 30%, purely from better care within hospitals. A steroid called dexamethasone drops mortality from COVID by a further 20%. And the development of monoclonal antibodies will drop mortality by a further 20 to 30%. So we are looking at around a 70% reduction in mortality for those who are hospitalized with COVID. This is outstanding progress. At the same time, a global collaborative effort for vaccine development has been proceeding with all the big pharmaceutical companies, as well as the medical charities and foundations. Scientists are indicating that a vaccine will be available in all countries in the first half of 2021. The vaccine may not be perfect, but they will be safe. The prediction is that these vaccines will have an efficacy or effectiveness of between 50 and 70%. But even with this level of effectiveness, the vaccines would have a dramatic effect on this pandemic. It is likely that those who are vaccinated and then catch COVID will not go on to experience as severe a disease as they would without the vaccine. The expectation is also that the vaccine will reduce transmission. Now, of course, not everyone is going to be able to access the vaccine straight away, because the rollout will likely begin with our most vulnerable, the unwell, the elderly, and then the healthcare workers, and move on to the wider population. So without a doubt, these next few months are going to be challenging and bumpy. However, as our beloved Imam predicted, the progress being made in the development of medication and vaccines will fundamentally reduce the power of the virus and will begin to put the brakes on this pandemic. The coronavirus may not be eradicated fully, but it will become manageable. So there is hope, and there is hopeful horizon ahead, something that we should be truly grateful for. Shukr. During the challenging months ahead, I humbly request that we stay close to our faith, remain strong, practice gratitude, appreciate the simple pleasures, reflect on what this pandemic has taught us, keep strong the connections that we have built with ourselves as well as others, and most importantly, continue to focus on our physical and emotional well-being. I will leave you with a quote that I read recently. The meaning and the purpose behind some events are unknowable. After all, some of your worst experiences have truly been your best. They have sculpted you, trained you, developed within you a sensitivity, and set you in a direction that reaches out to impact your ultimate destiny, unquote. I hope that for each of us, this experience is one that shapes our futures, builds us into stronger individuals, closer families, a more connected community, and a more united world. Finally, let us offer our most humble shukrana to our beloved Maulana Hazar Imam for his continued blessings, guidance, and support, and pray for the good health and well-being of Maulana Hazar Imam and his family. Thank you. Ya Ali Madad.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Ya Ali Madad. It has now been more than 6 months since our lives have been disrupted by the pandemic. While there have been many challenges, the current situation has also offered some opportunities, such as more time to spend with our families, opportunities to reflect on what is really important in our lives, and indeed how significant a part the Jamaat Khanas have played in our lives. You know, in some parts of the world, such as in the subcontinent and East Africa, the Jamaat Khana has been part of the daily routine for many people. Their day often started with a visit to the Jamaat Khana, even if it was just to offer a salam. And it ended with the Jamaat Khana for evening prayers. Similarly, for many of the elderly in our Jamaat, the Jamaat Khana has been the center of their social and religious life. It has been like oxygen for them. I cannot even imagine what the closing of the Jamaat Khanas has meant for them. Nonetheless, we must all remain patient and continue to pray for relief from this global predicament so that we can once again congregate in our Jamaat Khanas. Next week, we will be celebrating Miladun Nabi, that is the birth anniversary of our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wa alihi wasallam. So it is an opportune time to draw from his example and teachings some lessons that might be helpful to us in our current situation. After all, as Allah says in the Quran Sharif, for all Muslims, the Prophet presents a beautiful model of conduct for emulation. Many of us will recall the following words from the presidential address that Maulana Hazar Imam delivered in Karachi, Pakistan at the International Sirat Conference in 1976.
The Holy Prophet's life gives us every fundamental guideline that we require to resolve the problem as successfully as our human mind and intellect can visualize. His example of integrity, loyalty, honesty, generosity both of means and of time, his solicitude for the poor, the weak and the sick, his steadfastness in friendship, his humility in success, his magnanimity in victory, his simplicity, his wisdom in conceiving new solutions for problems which could not be solved by traditional methods without affecting the fundamental concepts of Islam. Surely, all these are foundations which, correctly understood and sincerely interpreted, must enable us to conceive what should be a truly modern and dynamic Islamic society in the years ahead.
Amongst the many excellent qualities of our beloved Prophet was patience. We read in the Quran Majid, "O you who have believed, seek help in patience and prayer. Surely Allah is with those who are patient. Inna Allaha ma'as sabirin." The word used in the Quran is sabr, which is usually translated as patience. But that translation is quite inadequate because the word sabr, according to those who have written tafsirs of the Quran, could mean a lot more than that. They suggest, for instance, that sabr means courage in the face of hostilities, self-restraint in the face of provocation, calmness in misfortune, control against temptation, steadfastness in afflictions, and perseverance in hardship. Well, many of us are afflicted in one way or another by this pesky virus, and many are also suffering hardship as a consequence. However, if we maintain sabr and pray, we are told that God is with us. There is an interesting story from the life of the Prophet from the time when he had escaped an assassination attempt in Mecca and migrated to Medina. He was accompanied on this journey by his companion Hazrat Abu Bakr. On their way, we are told that they took refuge in a cave. A search party of the Quraysh were hot on their heels and came right to the mouth of the cave. At that point, it is recorded in Hadith that Hazrat Abu Bakr became very nervous. The Prophet is believed to have reassured him by saying, "How can you be apprehensive about two with whom is a third, especially when the third one is Allah?" So I think an important lesson from the life of the Prophet that we can apply to our lives is that of sabr in the present conditions, with the firm belief that God is with us. For the Ismailis, there is the added reassurance that our beloved Imam, with whom we have a permanent spiritual bond, is also with us at all times. Remembering the assurance of God in the Quran and the commitment of our beloved Imam can be a source of comfort and happiness for us in these challenging times. There is another hadith attributed to the Prophet which says that on very cold and rainy nights, the Prophet used to order the muazzin, that is the person who calls the adhan, the call to prayers, to say, "Pray in your homes," instead of saying, "Hayya ala salah," come to pray. This is why in many Muslim majority countries during the pandemic, they closed the masjids and made the same announcement during the adhan. This is also why Hajj ceremonies were restricted this year. We also read in Hadith that the Prophet sometimes used to offer his prayers while riding a camel. Now clearly he could not have been performing the actions like sajda and ruku while riding his camel. And Hadith also tells us that it did not matter to the Prophet in which direction his camel was traveling. That is, he was not always facing the Qibla, the direction of the Kaaba. It is said that it was in response to this situation that the verse of the Quran was revealed where Allah says, goodness does not consist in turning your face towards the east or the west, and goes on to then describe what is righteousness in the eyes of God. The implication of these hadiths and the verse of the Quran, in my view, is that the forms of religious practices can be adjusted in challenging times without affecting their essence. For the Ismailis, this is not news, because this notion that there is a zahir that signifies a batin has been a hallmark of the Ismaili approach to Islam. As the Fatimid Dai Hamiduddin Kirawani explains it, zahir or form is what we can experience through our senses. On the other hand, the batin is what we can understand through our minds. That is the meaning and purpose behind the form. So the relevant lesson I think we can learn from the example of the Prophet is that even though we are unable to come together in our Jamaat khanas and participate in the physical forms of congregational practices because of the current circumstances, there is no reason why we cannot keep alive the essence of those practices in our own individual ways. It is reasonable to long for the opportunity to perform rituals in congregation because they make us feel a certain way. But obviously, we cannot perform Jamaati congregational rituals outside the context of the Jamaat Khana without the consent of the Imam. But our Imams have taught us that our tariqah is esoteric, and as such, we focus on the meaning, and that is more important than the physical forms. Our Jamaat has always maintained a healthy respect for traditions of practice, but we have carefully avoided slipping into traditionalism, which is an exaggerated and non-contextualized respect for tradition, often equated with fundamentalism and dogmatism. Now, earlier we heard an extract from a speech by Maulana Hazar Imam in which he suggested that the Prophet's example must be correctly understood and sincerely interpreted to be applicable to our times. What I've attempted to do in this short talk is precisely that, drawing on what we know about the traditions attributed to the Prophet and interpreting them to address the needs of our times. I hope you have found this to be useful. Thank you for listening to this talk. Ya Ali Madad.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In the name of Allah, the most kind, the most merciful. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I have the delightful pleasure of welcoming you to the Concert of Light, created for Exhibition Road Music Day here at the Ismaili Centre. Music has the ability to evoke a myriad of emotions, from euphoria to sorrow, passion to calm, rapture to despair. And it can evoke moments of reflection, contemplation, and search by the individual. This is experienced not only by those listening to the music, but also by those making the music, as they create something unique in every performance. For this music day, the Ismaili Community Ensemble with Paul Griffiths have taken inspiration from ayats of the Holy Quran, devotional poetry, Ismaili Muslim literature, and creations from their own music making to put together a suite of musical pieces that arouses them to search and seek out a path illuminated by nur, meaning light. With numerous pressures on our everyday lives, we often lock away this wondrous ability to feel freely and reflect. Through rehearsals, each artist in the ensemble takes the courageous step of opening up, of enabling creativity to flow, and allowing, in the words of one participant, the energy of insight to kick in opening hearts whilst leaving all inhibitions at the door. We hope that you will feel the spirit of goodwill by the participants to commit to a truly reflective process. They have not been working from an existing musical score, but have literally come together and made music, and it is the beauty of this organic process that we will experience this evening. In the ethics of our faith, we believe that God is omnipresent. God is everywhere and in everything that we do. So, this evening, inshallah, We will hear his presence in the melodies, feel his presence in the harmonies, and see his presence in the way the artists perform together as one ensemble. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in warmly welcoming Paul Griffiths and the Ismaili Community Ensemble in collaboration with the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra.
مثل نوره كمشكاة
والزجاجة كأنها كوكب دري كوكب دري يوقد من شجرة مباركة زيتونة لا شرقية ولا غربية يكاد زيتها يضيء ولو لم تمسسه نار نور على نور نور على نور يهدي الله لنوره من يشاء ويضرب الله الأمثال للناس والله
This is the Somali Community Ensemble. They're a fantastic group. It's a pleasure and a privilege to work with all of them and with all of the people behind the scenes who make this happen. We're going to continue with an arrangement of a song by the Iranian Sufi singer Dawood Azad, which is called Song in Fire. The next piece features our singers and is the setting of a poem from the Ismaili poetry collection Shimmering Light, and is called The Light of the Moon.
Ladies and gentlemen, the next piece is a Ginan, or a devotional poem, and it's about Nur, which means light, and the name is Ankalali Joy Joy Taki. I hope you bear with me while I make sure I sing in tune. Yeah.
nothing